What's going on, y'all? Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't done so already. If you'd like to donate to the channel, the cash app's at the top right corner of the video. But let's get into it, man. So with recent news with Ebony Prince, and I've covered about this topic before, I have talked about on multiple occasions about Ebony Prince and how he could be a reference in 616 in LA. Ebony Prince seemingly gathered information of Drake over the years, as well as items that he has left at the hotel where he used to work at, and somehow has incriminating evidence of Drake of some sorts that he's alluding to. One of the main things is giving Kendrick Lamar the items for Meet the Grams, but now it appears to be another item that he also probably mentioned to Kendrick Lamar also. Now, like I said, right now, we know that Kendrick Lamar received these items because of Ebony Prince. There's no other way he would be able to obtain these items for the Meet the Grams at 616 in LA art, unless it was somebody that was giving it to him from Ebony Prince himself. Now, what Ebony Prince is saying here when he says, now what was said about wine coolers and white tees, and then displaying a white t-shirt with stains, which appear to be the color of wine of some sorts, followed by some paperwork that alludes to the fact that these items belong to Richard Fitzenwell, also known as Drake, at the Mark Hotel, with another bulk of clothes inside the bag as well. And as you can see here, the date that this item, this stained shirt, this stained white tee in reference, was found on November 9th of 2022. And the purge date, which is the date they get rid of these found items at the hotel, is on December 9th, 2022, a month apart exactly. And then we have at the bottom the location it was found. Now, this is saying room 1601. Now, this isn't necessarily 1,601. It's not necessarily 1,000 rooms at the Mark Hotel. What it's possibly referencing is floor 16, room number 1, which I could assume is the penthouse. The Mark Hotel has exactly 16 floors. So if the Mark Hotel has 16 floors, it's labeled the 16th floor and then the first room on that floor, which, like I said, I'm assuming is the penthouse for the Mark Hotel where Drake possibly stayed at. So it was found on November 9th on the 16th floor on room 1 and belongs to Richard Fitzenwell. Richard Fitzenwell, like I said, was Drake's alias, and it was found by housekeeping. And I've also stated in a recent video that when 100 Gigs came out the first time, I thought that Drake was referencing the Mark Hotel or seemingly trying to sub the response in regards to Ebony Prince and the clues that he's been leaving, because he had posted here in the song, I can't get no 8 hours of sleep, not when you're here laying next to me. It's like the third time switching out the sheets. Housekeeping must know that we some freaks. And this comes from a song called Housekeeping Knows on 100 Gigs. So I'm curious to know that whatever's in this bag in particular, I'm wondering if it is a bed sheet. I'm wondering if it is another stained shirt, which goes back to what I was talking about in 616 in LA. A song in which the cover art could only be obtained if you were to receive it by Ebony Prince himself, because he's the only one that owns the items for the cover art. So I'm assuming not only did Kendrick Lamar receive this image from Ebony Prince, it's also safe to assume that he also sent him the image of the wine cooler spilt white t-shirt. Because how does Kendrick start this verse by saying, off-white sunseeker at the marina, F a phantom, I like to buy yachts when I get the fever, wine cooler spilled on my white t-shirt, the sightseer. Now, with this image alone, he's referencing the first 4 bars. And you might say, well, why he doesn't mention the yacht? I see the white t-shirt being stained, so I know he's definitely talking about that. Well, that's correct. But then we also have to take into account this date that's left here on this item found paperwork. Now, for those of you who don't know, November 1st was the day that Takeoff had passed. November 1st was the day he had passed away in Houston. Drake had postponed his performance at the Apollo in New York City so that way he could grieve for the passing of Takeoff. However, if Takeoff passed away on November 1st, it still shows that you went to the hotel on November 9th, at least around this time. So then he postpones it again. And then he postpones it in December. And then he postpones it all the way until January to where we see him perform at the Apollo with 21 Savage and Dipset. That's where he wears the pink mink. And that's where he comes out with Dipset and 21. But why did you postpone it twice? Well, in my last video, I had said he had postponed it because he had to go to an event. Not that he had to go to an event, but he decided to go to one for New Year's Eve. See, it's one thing that you postpone it for Takeoff on November 1st, but then you postpone it again in December. Now, in December, what he ended up doing was going to a yacht party that was mentioned by Cuba Gooding Jr. And as you can see here, around December 29th, which is around the time that he took off on his yacht to go and party with P. Diddy, as well as everybody else like Cuba Gooding Jr., Quavo, Meek Mill, Lil Baby, Lil Rod. Yep. And this is where Lil Rod accuses Cuba Gooding Jr. of the horrible, heinous crime that he accused Cuba Gooding Jr. of. All these actual crimes going on at this time, but it says here Drizzy will be performing at the gala taking place at the lavish Emerald Hotel on Thursday, December 29th. Diddy will be one of the 700 people at the charity event that aims to raise funds for UNICEF's efforts around the world. And it says at the top here, Drake and Diddy are gearing up to take a trip down the Caribbean islands of St. Bart's for the annual Luisa Via Rome for UNICEF Gala. And this is when Cuba Gooding Jr. started explaining his experience there at St. Bart's with everybody else in attendance, including Drake and P. Diddy. Gooding said that he wound up in close proximity to Jones, which is Lil Rod, the one that came out of the lawsuit exposing Diddy of all these heinous crimes, had said that he was partying with other celebrities on a series of yachts on New Year's Eve in St. Bart's in 2023. I went for one ship saying Happy New Year, Gooding said. So I hung out with Tyson. Next, there's Drake on another ship. This ship had P. Diddy. He had his guy, his videographer. They're listening to music. He says, hey, Cuba, you want to hear P. Diddy's new song? So I bring this up simply to mention that this paperwork puts Drake at a yacht around this time in December, towards the end of December 2022. You see, it doesn't make sense why you would postpone. It would make sense to postpone your concert, but it doesn't make sense to postpone it for 2 months straight and then go back in late January. I understand that if you want to grieve Takeoff, I mean, realistically, you should be grieving somewhere where he had passed or with his family, or maybe just post it. I don't know. That's only the normal thing to do, right? I wouldn't go and grieve Takeoff in a hotel at the Mark Hotel a week after he had passed. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Why are you grieving at a place that he didn't even pass away at? You're not in Texas. You're not in Atlanta or wherever he rested at. But needless to say, Drake performed at a yacht around this time. A yacht where Lil Rod accused Cuba Gooding Jr. of doing heinous crimes, where Diddy was accused of doing heinous crimes, where his son was accused of heinous crimes as well. This is another situation that I'm talking about. Sean Diddy Combs' son accused of SA in lawsuit that also names music mogul as a defendant. A woman alleges she was attacked while working on a yacht in late 2022, which I'm assuming could be the same place where Lil Rod was accusing Cuba Gooding Jr. of SA as well. Now, going back to 616 in LA, I believe that the sound in the beginning, I still haven't determined it yet, but correct me if I'm wrong if I say that it sounds like a yacht. It could be a yacht, only because he starts off by saying Off-White Sunseeker at the marina. F a phantom, I like to buy yachts when I get the fever. And remember who was on a yacht with Diddy, tailgating yachts together. And then he follows up by saying, wine cooler spilled on my white t-shirt, the sightseer. This image alone leads us to the direction of Drake on a yacht with Diddy at St. Bart's. And then we got the white t-shirt stain right here. So could this actually be a reference to that St. Bart's party? And then going back to Kendrick's lyrics, he mentions the yacht, and then he mentions the white t-shirt. And then we go to the end where he says, it's time to look around on who's around you. Before you figure that you're not alone, ask what Mike would do, which at this point, I think it's like a hexentendre or an octandre by the way that it could reference multiple mics at this point, bruh. But in the last video I had made saying, did Kendrick reference Ebony Prince in 616 in LA? This is one thing that I had pointed out. Ebony Prince used to go by the name Mike. He used to specifically go by the name Mike Myers Ebony Harlem. My name is, as you can see here, this is the image he has shared, Mike Myers. And then it says, my name is Mike Myers Ebony from Harlem, New York City. Some of my friends, family, and legal counsel call me a sick and twisted individual for the way I handle things. But none of you knew that before you began threatening and harassing me. Imagine how funny that is from where I sit. Are you people sure you know who you're dealing with? Because there's always that other name that I went by. What's the other name that he went by? Mike Myers Ebony Harlem. Michael Myers? Could only assume, since it's Halloween. And like I said, these are just the theories that I have presentable for y'all that I always just think of. So when he says it's time to look around and see who's around you before you figure that you're not alone, what Mike would do. What Mike is he talking about? Is it this Mike? And going back to the images at hand, when we talk about the lyrics at the top, remember, to begin with, Kendrick should have gotten this image from Ebony Prince. There's no way he would have gotten this image from anybody else. And then talking about yachts, with considering the fact that Drake was on the yacht with Diddy around the time where that paperwork had showed in the lost items, and then mentioning wine cooler spill on the white t-shirt. If you ask me, I think that Ebony Prince sent this to Kendrick Lamar when he sent him the cover photo for Meet the Grams. Kendrick definitely got the Meet the Grams art from Ebony Prince, but I think he got more pictures sent to him by Ebony Prince than just the Meet the Grams art. I think this is one image that Kendrick had also received from Ebony Prince as well. We'll keep it alleged for now. And just for a bonus, I really do think that that sound is super mysterious, but now it's starting to sound like a yacht or a boat. Some people that join my live who work on a boat say that it sounds oddly familiar, that it sounds similar to what a boat sounds like or what a boat engine sounds like when it hits the ocean, usually when it's calm and not moving. But y'all tell me. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video, man. Peace.